Good evening, everybody. It's Charlie Lambden. It's Moving Home with Charlie. It's Friday, the 23rd of August. And just give me one moment while I get Instagram live, and then I have a slurp of tea. And there we are. We're live on Instagram. And we're also live on TikTok this evening, unusually for 5 Fact Friday. This is a bank holiday special 5 Fact Friday. I will, in just a moment, whistle through the 5 facts in brief for those of you that don't have time or find it too boring when I ramble on. But before we start 5 Fact Friday, I just want to point out one thing to everybody. One of the things that's become abundantly clear to me is that people who invest in property and people who make money from property itself, I don't mean people who help people move, I don't mean estate agents or mortgage brokers, I'm talking about investors in property who rely on property assets going up in order to make their profits and people to pay rent and for rents to go up. It's really important that everyone understands that the maths of this is that whenever somebody makes money, someone else is losing money, someone else is paying for it. When you make money, it doesn't come out of thin air. And so if you're someone who salivates over endlessly rising house prices, you've got to remember that there are losers, okay? And the losers are the people who, through no fault of their own, doing good jobs, good professional jobs, can no longer afford a home to live in. And with the exception of the most very heartless rich bastards in the world, I don't think anyone actually wants to get wealthy if it ends up depriving other people of a home. So it's just the thing that's made me think this has been the reaction to a couple of things I put out this week, both about house prices and values not going up as people expected, which got this really weird reaction of denial. And then the same with rent prices. The fact that Zupa says, it's one of the 5 facts, I'll come on to it, but it's this people get very upset and angry and what? And defensive about the fact that, what do you mean house prices don't always go up? What do you mean rents don't always go up? You're wrong, Charlie, you're wrong. It's ridiculous. It's a good thing for the country if people can afford a decent home to live in. It is a bad thing for all of us, rich and poor alike, if we end up with a country where people can't afford a reasonable standard of living. And the housing market, both in mortgage, in rising house prices and rising mortgages, is one of the things that sucked so much money out of the economy. So I'm all for earning a living out of the property market by creating and adding value. So, for example, people who buy fixer-uppers and then refurbish them and sell them and make a living doing that, that's good. You're doing something, you're building, creating, you're adding value. That's a good way to make a living. And I'm not going to go into, right, that's enough. I'll stop that ramble there. I'll come on to it in a bit. Let's just quickly whistle through the 5 facts in brief. So fact number 1, in no particular order, and this is, by the way, 5 Fact Friday for those of you who are new here. Welcome to everyone who's new. 5 Fact Friday is 5 things that have been reported in the last 7 days that you can verify with the links that I provided in the description below. If you don't have links where you're watching this, just go to mhwc.co.uk, my website, or just search 5 Fact Friday, Charlie 5 Fact Friday, and you'll find it. And I always put the links to all of this up. Fact number 1. Nationwide put out a graph showing that house values adjusted for inflation are currently at 2003 levels. Yes, the prices have gone up, but when adjusted for inflation, house values are no higher than they were 21 years ago. Fact number 1. And I've got graphs to back this up when we get into it. Fact number 2. Rightmove said that the average asking price this month fell. They put out a single average figure for the country, but you break it down by property type, and it only fell about 700 quid for the typical first-time buyer property, but it fell £15,500 for top of the ladder properties, and about £3,000 it dropped. This is just a typical seasonal dip in asking prices that happens most August. So it's not nothing to say that house prices have suddenly started falling. Everyone gets too excited. Honestly, the best thing people can do with Rightmove's asking price index is ignore it. It really doesn't help anything or anyone. The only thing it helps is overvaluing, which helps overpricing, which stops people from moving. So that's not good. But anyway, that's fact number 2. Rightmove average asking prices fell. Number 3, Zoopla reported that not only has rental inflation peaked, but in cities like Nottingham and London and Glasgow, average rents in those cities have actually come down, actually falling. Rent inflation's gone negative, and that has just blown the minds of some people. No, they're still going up, just not as far. No, they're actually coming down. And this is not a surprise when you think how long people have been enduring a cost of living crisis and an inflation squeeze. It's as I've always said, it's mathematical gravity. It was going to happen. Fact number 4, Rachel Reeves has committed to raising social rents by above inflation every year for the next 10 years. Well, when we found out that 44 Labour MPs are also landlords, there you go. That's just, I'm not being serious about that, but it's true. And fact number 5, there is a really vicious price war happening between mortgage lenders and cutting rates. And that's good news for transaction volumes and for buyers. But don't think that mortgage rates coming down means prices go up, because a mortgage interest rate can come down. It doesn't change how much the borrower can borrow. It just costs them slightly less to borrow it, typically. Okay, so that was the 5 facts in brief. And let me start one more quick thing. I put a survey out on Twitter today to ask if everyone knew how much the difference was. I often have a rant about the house price indices and how pointless they are. And because today, big bit of news actually. Today, the BestAgent public house price index, where you guys can report your exchange prices and your rental prices, it's live again. It is live again. The link is just there, bestagent.property/HPI, or if you just Google BestAgent house price index, you'll find it. And the whole idea is to create a transparent house price index, because all of the other house price indices are so unhelpful, is the most polite way of putting it. Let me just show you what I mean. I did a quick back of the fag packet. So these are the 5 most recent official average house prices for the UK. Okay, so these are all UK, not just England or Wales or anything else, but UK, and they are the official average house price. Okay, now, interesting, isn't it? In at number 5, we have Zoopla, who arguably, based on what I know, have more access to more data from more sources for their index than any of the others do. They are using data from lenders, they're using data from the land registry, they're using data from their CRM software, and their data from the Zoopla portal, and they put it all together. It's the most complicated calculation. It's the one that they try to get as what's actually trading today. And they come up at 265,000. Nationwide, which is just a mortgage lender, doesn't see any cash transactions, which Zoopla does, says 266,000. The ONS, the official ONS, well, Charlie, the ONS must be right because it's actual land registry completed prices, right? Hold your horses. The ONS say 288,000, which is £22,000 more than Nationwide, and £23,000 more than Zoopla. But the ONS must be right, okay? The ONS does use land registry data, and it does use, and those are from completion, actual price paid completion on all transactions. However, it's a small sample of them to begin with, and it uses weird, convoluted, hedonic regression, mix adjusted methodologies. So it's not actually an average. It's a weird index calculation that they call average, but it's not an average. There we are, 288. Halifax in at 291,000. And our silly friends Rightmove, who say that the average house price in England is £367,000. Overvaluing, gone mad. That price there, if you're on TikTok, you can't see this. I've got it on the screen. Sorry, guys. I've got it on the screen there. that Rightmove ridiculous £102,000 more than Zoopla's average house price proves, if proof were needed, that people are overpricing their homes much too high. Okay. Oh, we have someone called Roz Street on TikTok who says, I'm a conveyancer. I was in work by 8. I got home at 7:15. The market is mental. Well, that's great news. I'm busy transactions. Good news. And yeah, I'm beginning to see that too. And for the summer, for August, that's pretty interesting. Ross, do you cover a particular area of the country? Is that north, south, or is it the whole country? Let me know. Gemria on TikTok asks, what do I think will happen to house prices in the coming 6 months to a year? It depends, Gemria. It depends what level of the market, what part of the country, whether you're talking houses or flats. Give me a bit more specific question, because generally speaking, the overall averages just don't move very much. By the way, by comparison to all of those figures I just gave you, BestAgent's house price index, which I will put up on screen quickly for a second. Now, this is based on published asking prices. Hang on a second. Is that on the screen there? Yes, it is. So the median, as opposed to average, the median sold asking price is 296,000. So it's in the ballpark. Now, that's not BestAgent's own calculation. That is the median of all properties on the market in England showing a sale agreed. That's just England, not the whole of the UK. But it is showing that the number of sales agreed is ticking up. The number of properties for sales coming down slightly. And the median typical price just went up £1,000 compared to last week. Right, never mind that. Let's get back to the 5 facts. So I said, didn't I? Hang on a second. Where are we? I said that house prices are the same as 2003 values. Okay, so this is fact number 1. This is this really upsets a lot of people. And I was going to run you through the comments underneath this, okay? And the reason for posting this on my X platform was just people should buy homes to live in, not as investments. Thinking that it's an investment is what's led us to the problem we're in this country today with house prices and to earnings ratio being so bad and making it so hard to get a decent home, okay? And when house values were rising, which was all the way up to 2008, house values, not prices, but house values were rising. It made sense. I can see why it really did. And actually, I enjoyed a bit of that ride in the late 90s. And early 2000s as well on properties. But since 2008, there has been no real house value growth. Charlie, what do you mean house prices have gone up? I think everyone now, from the last few years, everyone understands what inflation means, right? It means your money buys you less. It's worth less money. So a 200 grand house 20 years ago, if it was still 200 grand today, you wouldn't say that the price hadn't changed. You'd say it'd gone down in value, it'd be cheaper, wouldn't it? Well, that's the same as inflation, basically. So when house prices are adjusted for inflation, we are at 2003 values. All right. I will show you a live graph. I've linked to it below. Go and check out the link for yourself if you don't believe me. If you're watching on TikTok, go to mhwc.co.uk or just search Charlie 5 Fact Friday and you'll find links to it. Okay, so first of all, let's have a look at some of the comments, because they were really like, what? No. Who cares what the value is? You have to live somewhere and it's paid off as yours. I agree with that. It's where you live, not an investment. Exactly, that's my point. Pure curry debasement. They don't factor in cost of capital either. Everyone's talking about, and someone said you've forgotten the impact on mortgages, that because of course inflation reduces your mortgage debt too. Yeah, I know, it's true, but that's a separate point. I haven't forgotten it. I'm well aware of that. It doesn't change my point that house values themselves haven't gone up. Adam Taylor says, it's a shame wage inflation hasn't kept up, which means houses are still massively overpriced. Correct. That's why they feel more expensive to buy. So they haven't gone up in value, they've gone up in cost, if that makes sense. People saying why you should never pay cash, always get a mortgage, because yeah, I get that. But they're all talking about it as an investment rather than actually just as a way to get a home. But this is why the point is good. If you need a home, buy a home, but don't think you're going to make money on it. If you do, then great, but there isn't any guarantee. So look at this graph. This is fascinating. So this graph now on the screen, I've got to show you TikTok boys this, right? This graph on the screen here, that is the true up and down of house values in the UK for about 50 years. So going back to 1975, yeah. All right. So not much in the 70s and 80s. And then in 1982, they started to go up a lot. They went up from an adjusted value of around about £117,000 to about £209,000. So nearly doubled in that 8-year period. The 80s boom that was. Then it came down again. And then look, so this was 1995, which happened to be just when I started buying my properties. But that was just dumb luck. And between 1995, it just went up and up and up and up and up and up with a slight splutter around about 2004. But then it kept going up again, up to a peak in June 2007. And then it started coming down. And then it came to 2009, then down again, all the way down to 2013. Then they put Help to Buy in. Remember Help to Buy? And they went up and up and up and up until about 2016. And then they've been gradually declining a bit. Up again in 2019. That was over COVID. That was the COVID money. Otherwise, they continued their trend back down. Okay. I don't know how well you guys can see that on TikTok, but I just thought that was a really fascinating graph. I've linked to that graph below if you want to go check it out, guys. So that's fact number one. Fact number two, Rightmove's average asking price. Oh, I just clicked the wrong button. Let's get it back. Okay. Rightmove's average asking price fell. I'm not going to spend very long on this because I did a whole video on it earlier in the week. If you want to see that, just go and check out my channel. But Rightmove's, they said there was a seasonal drop of £5,700, but of course that varies differently depending on which property you're on. To the average price of £367,000. It's literally £100,000 joke. The Rightmove house price figure, £100,000 joke. Down here, though, they've got the more useful numbers showing that first-time buyer properties had a small reduction of about £700 or 0.3%. Second steppers had a reduction of about £3,000 or about 0.9%. And top of the ladder properties had a reduction in the asking prices of 2.3%, which is about £15,500. Okay, so that's fact number two. But it doesn't mean that house prices are falling. In the same way that when it's going up, it doesn't mean house prices are rising. When it's going down, it doesn't mean they're falling either. It's just a pointless index, the Rightmove index, a pointless index for the reasons I've repeated many, many times. Right, number three. This is Rightmove publishing just a couple of days ago. Rents start falling in London, Brighton, Glasgow, Nottingham, and Worthing. Rents are falling? No. Surely he just means the rental inflation's come down a bit, but actual rents are still going. No. Actual rents are actually falling in those areas. 1/3 of London's boroughs see rents come down, making London's overall rent average come down. And across the UK, rents are expected to rise by just 3 to 4% this year, a big drop from the increases seen in the last couple of years, which were 11% and 8%. So rent increases are going to be, that's right, that's going to be dropping below wage inflation. That means in 2024, wage growth, if you're getting the 5% or whatever it is, increase in your wages every year, is going to be going up faster than rents are going up nationally. Pretty good news, huh? That is good news, except for people who own portfolios of properties and want to rent them out. So we are past peak rental inflation, says Richard Donnell. The recent boom in rent rises for new lets is coming to an end. They're now rising at their slowest pace since 2021. Demand for rented homes has fallen by 39% over the last year, albeit off a high base, and the rental market has moved from red hot to still hot, but it's cooling. All right. And the supply of rental homes available per agent has started increasing, rising by 17% since last year. So demand is down 39%. And supply is up 17%. So for the supply-demand monkeys who just go, but it's just supply and demand, there are the figures that support the fact that rents are cooling at different rates in different places, but they are cooling. So if you are facing rent increases with your landlord, make sure they're aware of these figures, because a lot of them won't be, because they don't want to hear it. And bizarrely, this wasn't very widely reported. I thought this would have hit headlines, like front page headlines, like big house price moves it. This is the best news we've had for renters for years. And apparently one TV station picked it up. Otherwise, it didn't really get picked up at all. Okay, so that is the rent. Oh yeah, and I did a tweet on this, which upset people too. I posted about this on X saying, rents are falling in London. And I had all these people going, no, they're not. You're an idiot. Rents are inflated. It's going up. It's still going up and up. And so I posted this graph here. And actually, I put this on TikTok as well. So if you follow my TikTok channel, you'll see it too. There's the graph, town by town. They're still going up in more places than they're going down. But in Nottingham, London, Worthing, Brighton, and Glasgow, they are going down. Yay. This isn't bad news if you're a landlord. If you've got a landlord with properties of rent, your rent isn't going to be reducing, is it? You're just not going to be able to put it up so fast. Shuffling says, I'm not sure how you think it's good news, as overall it's still very high. Well, isn't it better news than it still going up at 10% a year, for fuck's sake? And isn't rents actually reducing in London good news? How is this not good news? My God. Am I the only one who thinks this is good news? Lily Maycraft says, we're in the process of buying a leasehold flat that's turning into a nightmare. Might be a blessing in disguise. You might want to walk away. Jazzatalk says, should you list with offers over or list around the price you want? If you get the right agent, you want to list at a launch price that's just the right spot to make the property look keenly priced, but not too cheap, to get the maximum number of bidders competing. Because once you've got competing bidders, it doesn't matter what your asking price is, if you want to make sure you get the best price for the property. Anyway, that's a distraction. Let me get back onto the next point, which is Rachel Reeves raising the rent on social landlords. Labour accused of aligning with landlords and heaping misery on families over social rent hike. If you're watching this on TikTok, again, the links are in where I put the links on 5 Fact Friday, but just go and search big issue Rachel Reeves, you'll find it. The Chancellor is set to reportedly announce social rents will rise by more than inflation for the next 10 years to turbocharge efforts to build social homes. And only 60 or 70% of people in socially rented properties have their rent paid partially or fully by housing benefit. So this is going to hit people. It's inflation plus 1% for the next decade. I'm not saying that is an unreasonable rate of rent increase. It's not. But it's not what they kind of said that they do, is it? and this is going to make it harder for tenants. And they're doing it to try and attract more people to invest in social renting houses. The government should be renting. You don't want people investing in social rent for profit. That's a recipe for a disaster, and it's why we're where we are now. The government should be responsible for social housing, and the private sector should be responsible for the private sector. We don't seem to learn our lessons on that. And number 5, which I think will be good news for everyone, I think everyone will agree with this. Mortgage price war hots up with 3.78% fixed rate from Nationwide. Now, I don't know why they always quote the 40% deposit fixed rates. This is what they always, I mean, it's because it's the lowest rates of their headline grabbers. You've got to remember, all these guys report these things just because they're headline grabbers. They're just headline grabbers. That's all they are. Because the rate is only available to borrowers with at least a 40% deposit, and it also carries a $1,500 fee. So it's really not for first-time buyers. But, this is still good news. It will stimulate activity. Activity stimulates transactions. Transactions speeds things up and is good for society. People moving easily is better. I don't think anything here is going to put prices up yet. Not for some time. It might soften price falls, and we've seen some big price falls at the higher end of the market. It might soften those falls slightly with people with larger deposits buying larger houses. But definitely good news. Definitely good news. I mean, these rates are well below the Bank of England base rates, so they are loss leaders. But just remember, everybody, that there are about 500,000 people. Was this in last week's 5 Fact Friday, or did I miss it? Because if not, I need to report this now. No, I didn't get it. This is really important, because when you're looking at 2-year or 5-year fixed rates, let me find this. It's really important. There we are. So home buyers paying £470 a month too much due to rip-off standard variable rate loans. So what happens, right? More than 500,000 home buyers are on expensive standard variable rate mortgages carrying rip-off interest rates. It has been revealed. Okay. Do you think any of those 500,000 borrowers expected to be on the 8 or 9% standard variable rate when their fix ended? No. None of them expected that. So anyone taking a short-term fixed rate, you are rolling the dice. Now, if that fits within your comfortable financial means to roll the dice, then that's fine. If not, I would suggest that you discuss with your mortgage broker what's more important to you. Stability, certainty, knowing what your mortgage payment is going to be for the longest time possible, or rolling the dice just so that you might get a cheaper rate in 2 or 5 years' time, but you also might get a more expensive one. So yeah, just remember, these tempting low rates are temporary. In America, they call them teaser rates because that's what they are. Now, let's have a look and see who we've got in the comments in the live chat. Sorry, guys, I haven't actually been paying attention to you at all. Hi, guys. Hi. Oh, guys, you're reporting house prices. Fantastic. Yeah, so just a quick reminder on the reason for the Best Agent House Price Index, the transparent house price index. The purpose of it is to stop overvaluing. The purpose of it is to just blow away the clouds of guff from all of the confusing house price indices and have the definitive authority on exchange prices paid and letting prices paid, so that there is real transparency, and that will make the market a fairer place because it will be harder for people to game the market, like the worst overvaluing agents game the market. Once this house price index is up to speed, and there are agents going to be contributing their prices to it as well, so there's a transparent agents who are willing to share their exchange prices and they want to go against overvaluing, this should just once and for all stop it and allow more people to move more easily. It should speed up transaction times and make moving home easier, whether you're buying or renting. It will allow the market, hopefully, the goal is a fairer moving marketplace where the market prices are the market prices and you don't get tricked into overpaying. Okay, San90 on TikTok is asking, at 4.3%, would a 10-year be better? Anyone who's wondering, should I do this or should I do that with my rate? At this rate, should I fix for this, or at this rate, should I fix for that? The only motivation for asking that question is it going to cost me more or less money? Now, nobody, not your broker, not me, not any economists, not even the Bank of England rate setters themselves know what's going to be happening 2 years from now or 5 years from now, let alone 10 years from now. So the question you need to ask yourself, because it's the only question that you can actually answer, everything else is guesswork. If you're wondering what rate to go on, is how much do you need certainty and how long for? And if you can afford the mortgage repayment that you've been offered at a longer rate, it's a personal risk, right? If you do a short-term rate, you are rolling the dice. And when you roll the dice, sometimes it can go in your favor, sometimes it can't. And if you look at the risk reward equation on this, if you roll the dice on a short-term fix, and at the end of it, you've saved a bit of money, you're only going to save a little bit, not a lot, right? But if you roll the dice and it goes against you, life goes against you, you end up with this 500,000 people on a standard variable rate. So the only people who should be risking short-term fixed rates are people who could afford if it goes wrong. All right. I hope that answers your question, Sam90. Loads of questions. Okay. Do we have any questions on here? Oh, Archie Bodger says Radio 4 did a report on the rent reductions today. Well, that's good news. I mean, Radio 4 hasn't got a very big listenership compared to Radio 2 or Radio 1. Or, I hope it got onto the TV because it's good news. Yeah, Boz47 says £1,500 fee, for fuck's sake. Money for nothing. You've got to remember that fee is what allows them to make the headline rate look attractive. And it's just a headline grabber. It's just a headline grabber. Wow, Craptacular82 says, I moved into this rental in London in March this year. Have you reported your rent price for March this year into the Best Agent House Price Index? If not, please do. And the same property from 2022 was £50 a month higher. So it's actually, you paid less this year than you did in 2022. Doesn't surprise me. I did say, didn't I, a year ago that London rent's going to come down. Bosbos47 says, Charlie, interest rates are on their way down. Surely. I don't know why anyone thinks that's a foregone conclusion. They may well be coming down. They're not going to, you've got to remember, they're not going to come back down to very low rate. Like the Bank of England base rate is not coming back down to 1 or below 2% anytime soon. And if it does, it's because we have much, much bigger problems. That's emergency rate setting when they do that. That's not going to happen again. And also, given all of the uncertainty, election uncertainty in the States, uncertainty in the Middle East, uncertainty with Russia, Ukraine, the fact that the energy price caps are going up in October, and that's going to put inflation back up. Rates might come down. They might come down, but I don't know why anyone thinks that they're surely going to come down, other than just pure hopium. I don't know any argument why they're going to come down. They're only going to cut the rates. It's because the economy is weakening. Lily Mae Croft says, that's the person buying the leasehold. So close to pulling out. Freeholder is living in downstairs flat and has taken over the garden. Okay, someone on TikTok whose username is too long to say Rates coming down are much more likely than not. But yes, not to 1% soon. Why do you think that? Why do you think it's more likely they're going to come down than not? You're making assumptions. I mean, you might be right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I don't know of anything that makes it statistically more likely. Not even when the market prices it in, because often the market is wrong and has to change itself. Anthony Keeley on YouTube asks, rather than estate agents so-called value the property, why not just say property's on sale, offers please, after viewing? That way you get market price. Or am I a dickhead? No, you're not. That's exactly what should happen. And actually, this is where people get so hung up on what their valuation is, because the valuation is a guess. You need to understand that. Everyone who's got their property on Rightmove sitting there unsold is because they believed a so-called valuation. It's guesswork by agents to win your business, and it bears no relation to what price you might sell at. All right? There are three prices: what you want, what the agent thinks, or what they say they think, and what someone will pay. And the only one that matters to you is what someone will pay. So if you're a seller and you think all you want to do is ask the agent how much they think it's worth, you know they're going to lie to you. So why ask? Do you want them to lie to you? The better question to ask is, what is your process to ensure we get competing bidders? It's that simple. It's that simple. What is your process that makes sure that we get competing bidders within the required time frame? If you only ask agents one question, it should be that. And you should listen very carefully and take notes of what they say and compare them. And if they say, oh, well, we're on Rightmove, so is everybody. And half the stuff on Rightmove doesn't sell. In fact, it's more than half. So that's not a reason that you're going to get me competing bidders. And if they say that, you should say, well, what about all these other properties on Rightmove that aren't sold? Being on Rightmove doesn't get you competing bidders. Correct. Being on Rightmove doesn't get you competing bidders. Yeah, you only ask the question, what is the method you use to get competing bidders on my property? Because that's the only way to discover what the market price for that property is. So Fleshmorph says, yes, but the price can set expectations, though. Yes, but expectations and reality. Isn't there? There's a quote: happiness is expectations minus reality. The fact is, Sir Fleshmorph, that once you've got competing bidders, it no longer matters what the asking price is, because they're not bidding against the asking price, they're bidding against each other. That's that. You know, do you guys ever, if you ever bid on stuff on eBay and you're looking at something like, I don't know, you want a secondhand iPhone, and there are loads and loads of them. The ones that sell quickly for the best price, the ones that have no reserve, aren't they? Why is that? Because the buyers know that people with no reserve are just going to sell the phone for whatever the market price is. And so that's where all the bidders go. And when you've got the bidders there, then they outbid each other, and that's how you get the best price. Then you get the people who put a reserve on because they're frightened they won't get enough money, and it sits there with no bids and doesn't sell. That's what sellers are doing with high asking prices. Some comments in this live were filtered to protect the community's experience. Got some angry commenters on TikTok. What have we got here? Any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. Now, you see, John WFXD, you're making some recommendations here, but I'm afraid that they're not. So you said also ask if they have enough buyers on their mailing list and actively market. They're just going to say yes to that. That's an easy lie. Do you have enough buyers on your mailing list? No, we don't. But we'll try. You know, don't ask questions that are easy for them to lie to. If you ask them questions with a yes or no answer, they're just going to lie. If you ask them questions that they can't prove the answer to, they're going to lie as well. If you ask them a qualitative question, how, what is the process that you use to ensure competing buyers? That will sort out the professionals from the amateurs. Okay. And John WFXD asks also, do they sell the most properties in your area? That's not necessarily a reason to use an agent, right? Let me give you an example. You take a busy brand that's got masses of properties on the market, but it only sells a third of them. But because it's a big corporate, it still sells quite a lot comparatively, but it sells them at below, the time to market is longer. Sorry, time to sale is longer. They get a lower price achieved. It doesn't matter. Honestly, volume doesn't matter unless it's them saying, we sell the most properties in this market because we have the best marketing, but it's our listed to sold ratio that matters. What you should ask an agent is, what is your proportion of properties that you list to sell? They won't answer. Most of them won't answer that. Only the good ones will give you the truth on that. The others will all go, I think it's about probably 80%, and they're lying. The national average is about 42, 43%. Anything above 60% is way better than average. Yeah. So sorry, John, those are just not good enough questions to ask an agent, in my opinion. San90 says, is it possible to have a legal agreement where the seller can't back out unless they pay for losses occurred? Yes, it is possible to do that. You can ask the agent. The seller may or may not agree to it, but it's called a committed transaction. And there are products that agents can use where there's a legal contract with money, and you're both bound to it, by the way. Buyer and seller, you both pay up if you have to back out. Lee Marsden on YouTube says, don't forget, when you do a short-term fix, you have also to pay the fee every time you do another fix, 2 years versus 10 years, add in 5 fee payments when comparing. Yep, good point. Okay, guys, it's Friday. It's Bank Holiday Friday. Thanks for watching. Any last-minute questions from you guys on YouTube or you guys on X? If you're watching on Instagram, I can't see your live questions. It's on a different screen. I haven't got access to that screen. I'm just going to try something just in case. I haven't tried before, in case it works. Yeah, expensive properties being hit hardest. Yes, that's true. Cheaper ones are selling. So, guys, this is a very, very true thing. The competition for first-time buyer type properties is always going to be more than competition for other parts of the market. All right. So, no, I can't see the live stream. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. Adam Biros asks, any plans for the long weekend, Charlie? I am working all weekend on preparations for Best Agent Day. And if you're an agent watching this, please register for Best Agent Day. It's free. It's going to be the turning point in the property market for estate agents, where we're basically, the goal is to double transactions across the entire market, make moving easier, allow everyone who wants to move, reduce transaction times, increase transaction volumes. Everybody wins, and Best Agent, and in particular the House Price Index, helps that happen. So I'm looking for agents that want to help support that. Thank you, Margaret. It's very kind of you. Yeah, I've got to go. I've got a family waiting. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Really appreciate it. And if you need me for help, you know where to find me. mhwc.co.uk is my website, and that's where you can also get in touch with my partner conveyancers and my partner mortgage brokers. And for the avoidance of doubt, if anyone does get in touch with my brokers or my conveyancers that I partner with and end up working with them, I do get something out of that. That's right. I'm not yet rich enough to work for free, so forgive me for looking to get a bit of the value I'm creating back where it's possible. But what's important is they are not excessive referral commissions. They are very reasonable ones. And it helps me and helps this channel if you do decide to use those, guys. Remember, if you are buying, always buy now but don't overpay. Make sure you have your offer to include your proof of deposit, mortgage and principal, conveyancing details, and property search pack will be bought if your offer is accepted. And if you're selling, get your conveyancer first, get contract ready first, then go and talk to agents and say, I'm already contract ready, already got a conveyancer. And they will be all over themselves to get your business because you've proved what a serious seller you are, and they'll be able to help sell your house in much less time. And your house will be more attractive to buyers because it's contract ready. Okay. And if you're a seller whose agent hasn't told you about being contract ready, you need to ask them and say, excuse me, what's the process? Because they're so sleepy, some of them be like, oh yeah, well, when we get an offer, then it's time to find a conveyancer. Well, just onboarding with a conveyancer can take 2 weeks. Just the ID and AML paperwork and stuff, it can take 2 to 3 weeks. You don't wait for that to slow down your deal. Get that done in advance if you're serious about selling. All right. Thank you, guys. Got to go. I'm going to shut up and actually go this time. Thanks, everyone on TikTok. Thanks, everyone everywhere else.